whatever the case may be, Stephanie White think it's in their best interest to have some precautions and not play them, man. Now, with all that being said, the Indiana Fever has been posting online. Last night, we reacted to the Blake Shelton situation. Today, they is letting the fans know that it is game day. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. I would love to see these two take off for the 2023-26 season, but it is what it is, man. But it's good to see them still enjoying their time together. The game is scheduled for 7 p.m. today on Ion. I believe that's Eastern Standard Time. I know people feel
the Indiana Fever are set to host the Dallas Wings in their second preseason matchup, with another contest scheduled later in the week. The anticipation surrounding this particular game runs high, given that Paige Buchers and Caitlin Clark will once again share the floor, with AZ Fountain also in the mix as Dallas brings its new-look roster to town. One element drawing attention ahead of tip-off is the injury report. Lexi Hull and Aaliyah Boston remain question marks for the Fever, and their absence raises concerns about team cohesion heading into the regular season. Chemistry takes time to build, and with the CBA situation having disrupted the off-season calendar, getting all the key pieces on the floor together carries real weight.
Eastern Standard Time. I know people feel the type of way about this poster here, bro. They got Raven Johnson on there. Raven Johnson is slowly but surely winning over a lot of these Indiana Fever fans. A lot of people thought that it could not happen. They hated each other. She hated Indiana fans, but whatever the case may be, I told y'all what it was. I wasn't 100% convinced that she was going to come in and be as hands-on as she is with Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. I thought she would be a little bit more reserved after that first interaction with her not giving Caitlin.
Head coach Stephanie White has opted for caution with both players, seemingly prioritizing long-term readiness over preseason reps. The Fever organization has been active on social media, keeping the fan base engaged as game day approaches. Clark and Boston appear in good spirits off the court, and the hope is that the 2025-26 season sees that connection translate into something special between the two of them on it. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Eastern on ION.
A little bit more reserved after that first interaction with her not giving Caitlin Clark a high five. But I think what happened, it was just the star power of Caitlin Clark, and she might be a little intimidated by Caitlin Clark. But as days is slowly turning over, we're starting to see Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark build somewhat of a camaraderie, which this should very much help reshape basketball in the women's fandom department, because we know it was two sets of fans. You know, you got some people saying that fans are racist. You got a lot of people saying that Raven Johnson is racist, but whatever the case may be.
Raven Johnson has been featured prominently in team promotional material, and the early signs suggest she is earning the trust of the Indiana fan base faster than many expected. After a rocky first impression, the moment where she did not extend a high five to Clark drew considerable attention. The dynamic between the two has shifted. Johnson appears more comfortable around the team, and the growing rapport between her and Clark, as well as Sophie Cunningham, has been one of the quiet storylines of the early preseason. If that camaraderie continues to develop, it could serve as a bridge between two fan communities that spent much of last season at odds with one another. On the Dallas side, head coach Jose Fernandez spoke ahead of the game about his evaluation priorities for the preseason.
Some people saying that fans are racist. You got a lot of people saying that Raven Johnson is racist, but whatever the case may be, I'm always about love. So if we all could come together and love the game of women's basketball, how we all know we could do, and agree that now Raven Johnson is a Fever. Now she has become an asset, at least in the first debut that we was able to see. I'm interested to see how Raven Johnson is going to play out in this game, being her second time at bat. I want to see if she's still going to have the same defensive aggression that she had, because Jose Fernandez, with
pace of play, floor spacing, defensive execution, and translating practice habits into game situations are at the top of his list. May 14th is the target, the regular season opener, and these two contests serve as trial runs to test different lineup combinations and rotations before the real games begin. Fernandez was specific about how he plans to deploy Paige Buchers, rotating her between ball handler and off-ball responsibilities while exploring different looks alongside AZ Fountain. The versatility of that pairing is something Dallas will lean on heavily, and the Fever defense will need to be sharp to contain the variety of actions those two can generate together. There were moments in the first preseason game where Indiana's defensive structure looked uncertain, and that will be an area to monitor closely.
Jose Fernandez, which We're going to play his clip in a minute. Kind of gave us an insight in how he's going to use Paige Beckers. He's going to have her on the ball, then off the ball, and creating different looks between her and AZ Fudd. I'm just interested to see how the Fever defense is going to go up against those different looks, because we did see last game that was some defensive stance where I had to ask myself, what the hell is Stephanie White doing at times? That's
What Dallas brings beyond its headline trio is also worth noting. Fernandez mentioned Jasmine Jones, Maddie Siegrist, and Odyssey Sims as contributors who have not yet received the same level of discussion. Sims, a former Fever player, had a standout stretch run in her last playoff appearance, averaging around 16 points. Veteran wing Alicia Clark adds size and IQ to the roster, though she and Jess Shepard are still working their way into the team's rhythm after missing practice time. Fernandez also acknowledged the unique position he occupies, a first-year WNBA head coach despite more than 2 decades of college coaching experience.
what the hell is Stephanie White doing at times? That's how bad it looked to me on the defensive side of the ball. Somebody said, let effing go, ladies. Time to punch. Caitlin Clark better play good. Can't keep shooting bad from three. I expect a GOAT to play today. I believe Caitlin Clark is going to turn it on today just because who we playing. Caitlin Clark always turns it on when she play Paige. I feel like Caitlin is going to come out with a little bit more oomph.
He pointed to Alicia Clark as a steadying presence in that regard, someone he can turn to for candid assessments of how the team is operating. Dallas also announced 32 consecutive years of season ticket sellouts, with Fernandez encouraging fans to push for a larger arena. Back in Indiana, Clark is expected to bring a higher level of energy to this matchup than she showed in the opener, where she played limited minutes and finished with 7 points. Historically, Clark has elevated her performance in matchups against Bukers, and the competitive nature of that rivalry tends to bring out sharper play from both sides. The first game saw her get off to a fast start before tapering off, and the expectation is that a full focused effort is coming in this one.
A bit more oomph. A little bit more oomph in the bag when she playing Paige. And hopefully we see that superstar FIBA World Basketball performance tonight from Caitlin Clark. I feel like she needs to make a statement in this one. Let everybody know, hey, I think what y'all was saying. Y'all said I struggled from three. Now, granted, she only played, I believe, 17 to 18 minutes. She only had 7 points. But I think if she start off quick, fast, just like how she did last game. I think last game, Caitlin Clark might have had 7 points within the first 5 minutes. I mean, like,
the Indiana Fever situation following this blowout loss doesn't need to be treated as a disaster. There are genuine concerns surrounding this roster, but most of them get significantly smaller when one factor gets accounted for: Aaliyah Boston returning to the lineup. The Dallas Wings treated this contest as though it carried real stakes. Through the first 25 minutes, they played with regular season intensity. The Fever, on the other hand, approached the entire game with preseason energy.
And Caitlin Clark might have had 7 points within the first 5 minutes. I mean, like, it was quick, fast. Then she kind of slowed down, which I get it, But it's going to be very interesting to see. Now, what we're going to be watching next is Jose Fernandez, the head coach of the Dallas Wings, speak about facing Caitlin Clark and these different looks that he have in store for Paige and for AZ Fudd. Let's listen to him.
And how we're preparing. I truly believe we hired the right people.
That gap in urgency showed up everywhere in the rotations, in the defensive effort, and in the box score. Dallas came out physical. They were aggressive, they were hard-nosed, and they took away everything Indiana tried to establish. The foul trends across the league this preseason make one thing obvious: officials are now penalizing off-ball contact at a much higher rate. The Wings understood that and exploited it early.
Every single game, you are no longer allowed to grab somebody. You're no longer allowed to grab somebody off the ball. Like, that is a thing, and the Dallas Wings came out being physical. They came out being physical, they came out being tough, and they stopped the Indiana Fever really doing anything. The Indiana Fever ran no sets. They ran no defensive actions. They literally allowed the Wings to.
On the defensive end, the Fever ran absolutely nothing. No sets, no schemes, no structure. A team that has been coached to create chaos on defense, forcing long passes, scrambling on ball screens, refusing to let offenses breathe, looked nothing like that unit. The screen coverage was essentially non-existent. There was no hedge, no switching, no blitzing.
They literally allowed the Wings to get everything they wanted. And this is a team that is coached on the defensive end by Brianne January. This is a team who we've seen it in practice. What they want to do is cause chaos on defense. They want to scramble on high ball screens. They want to refuse screens and force long passes. They want to cause chaos on defense. Today, we saw the Indiana Fever. This is how the Indiana Fever played.
What there was instead was a guard running directly into screens with no plan behind it. Help defense was absent for the entire game, and whether that was intentional or not, every single Dallas possession ended with either an open three or a clear path to the basket. The Wings also identified the weakest defensive link on the floor and attacked that player possession after possession. They targeted Shekinna Walker-Kimbrough consistently and punished Indiana for leaving that matchup exposed. The Fever made 0 attempts to rotate out of it or offer any form of relief.
This is how the Indiana Fever played screens today. Did they play hedge and recover? Nope. Did they play switching? Nope. Did they play blitzing? Nope. They played Christie sides, run into the screen. Defense. The help defense was non-existent. I don't know if it was by design or not, but the help defense was literally non-existent. This version of Indiana Fever's defense will not be there. Like, the Dallas Wings either had an open three or an open layup every single possession.
Dallas ran the same action repeatedly, and Indiana never adjusted. In terms of player evaluation, Paige Buchers handled 20 of the first 23 minutes for Dallas. The Wings came in with a clear plan for their star player, and she delivered. This was the first game under head coach Jose Fernandez. It was played in front of roughly 11,000 fans, and Dallas played accordingly. The Fever's rotation raised some eyebrows.
This version of the Indiana Fever's defense is not something that we expect to see in the first regular season game. Like, it is what we don't expect to see. And we saw it with the Wings, where it's like AZ Fudd was getting cooked on the defensive end. And the Indiana Fever just didn't go. The difference is that, like, whether it was Shatori or Walker-Kimbrough, they did it for Caitlin for
Monique Billings logged extended floor time, not because she was playing well, but seemingly because the staff wanted to see how low her floor actually was. What played out was one of the uglier individual performances of the preseason. Damiris Dantas looks no different from the version that struggled last season, arguably the least effective big to play meaningful minutes for a playoff-level team. She surrendered 5 offensive rebounds in this game alone by failing to locate and box out, standing flat-footed while the ball came off the glass repeatedly. Kalani Brown is reportedly available at the minimum and offers more size and physicality at 6'7", even if she isn't a marquee option.
They did it for Caitlin for a while. They just went out with we're just going to punish the worst defender. That is what the Wings went out to do. And the Fever were like, we're not even going to try to run anything to stop you out of that. We're not even going to try to take you out of that offense. If you want to just go ISO, cool. You're not going to get this next week. Minutes-wise, like, again, Paige played 20 of the first 23 minutes. She played.
At this point, that would represent an upgrade. On the positive side, Kiki Timpson looked like a completely different player compared to her overseas stint. Her court awareness has developed noticeably, and she could realistically push for a starting spot at the 4. If Timpson ends up anchoring that position, the front court picture changes considerably.
She played 20 of the first 23 minutes. They took this game, like, in preseason, Paige got a stop. I think Paige made a shot, and she's there screaming like she'd won the finals. I'm like, this was one of those things where I'm like, look, the Indiana Fever had, when it came to Paige, like, they took this really seriously. It was the first game under Jose Fernandez. You had AZ Fudd there. It was her first game. It's in Indiana.
There's also some optimism around the officiating trend. Based on how referees have been calling games this preseason, Caitlin Clark is going to spend a lot of time at the free throw line once the regular season begins. Contact on ball handlers is being whistled at a notably higher rate, and she could realistically draw 8 to 10 free throw attempts per game under these standards. Maisha Hines-Allen showed enough in her 29 minutes to be considered a functional backup big.
Had AZ Fudd there. It was her first game. It's in Indiana. There's a semi-big crowd for preseason of 10,000, of 11,000. And they wanted it. They wanted that game. Whereas the Indiana Fever made no adjustments, ran no sets, were perfectly willing to let the Dallas Wings do whatever they wanted, and they made no attempts to stop it. Like,
the gap between the two teams in this game came down almost entirely to intent. Dallas showed up ready to compete. Indiana showed up to evaluate. The regular season version of this Fever team will look nothing like what played out on this floor.
They wanted, and they made no attempts to stop it. Like, the Dallas Wings didn't really run anything. The Fever just didn't show their hand. The Fever's effort was preseason effort. The Wings' effort was regular season effort. It's as simple as that. Like, when it went to bench v bench, it was what it was. But, like, you could see Isaiah James plays 31 minutes.